What was probably even more terrifying to the Egyptians was that Akhenaten was interfering with their afterlife.
This is the Book of the Dead. Look over here. There's the deceased. And can you see what he's holding in his hand? It's his heart. The heart was very important to the Egyptians. They believed that you thought with your heart. It makes some sense. When you get excited, it's your heart that beats quickly, not your brain. That's why on Valentine's Day you send chocolate hearts, not chocolate brains. And look over here. These four gods, they're protecting the internal organs of the deceased. You see, the Egyptians were resurrectionists. They believed your body would literally get up and go again in the next world. So you had to have a complete body, including your internal organs. And the journey to the next world, that would be made in a boat. Now, if you look over here at the end of the Book of the Dead, it even provides magical oars for the journey. In a sense, this is a map to the next world. But Akhenaten was throwing out all the old maps. He was writing his own.
Before Akhenaten, Egyptian tomb walls showed the next world looking pretty much like this one. The deceased is still working in the fields, but it's better. Now he's got his finest white linen robes on, and you get the feeling it's air-conditioned. But Akhenaten changed this too. At Amarna, tomb walls no longer showed the deceased in the next world. Those scenes were replaced with pictures of Akhenaten and the royal family, often worshipping the Aten. If there was a next world, it seemed to revolve around Akhenaten. Along with this confusing vision of an afterlife is one of the greatest intellectual achievements of the ancient world. A poem written by Akhenaten himself.
Splendid you rise at dawn, living Aten, creator of life. When you have dawned in the east, you fill every land with your beauty. You are beauteous, great, radiant. When you set in the west, earth is in darkness as in death. Every lion comes from its den, all the serpents bite, night hovers, earth is silent as their maker rests in darkness.
Religion wasn't the only thing Akhenaten changed. 1,000 years of art went out the window. Before Akhenaten, Egyptian art had hardly changed over the centuries. We're used to art styles changing practically every year. In Egypt, art was intended for eternity. Change was to be avoided. A statue of a pharaoh of 2500 BC is not radically different from one 2,000 years later. Akhenaten was the one spike on the curve. No more idealized muscular bodies. Akhenaten is shown warts and all. The slogan for the age of Akhenaten was living in truth. If the pharaoh was deformed, let it be shown that way. Not even the beautiful Nefertiti was exempt from the new policy of truth in art. The famous bust of Nefertiti is a symbol of beauty throughout the world. But as she matured, even she was portrayed with poor posture and an aging body. it became fashionable to show the entire royal family with elongated heads. Not only was the new art liberating for Akhenaten, it gave the artists who worked at Amarna a new freedom. Artists had a chance to express themselves as never before. New scenes of the royal family could be composed, with no worries about tradition. They were shown informally, kissing and touching, eating meals together. To look into the private life of a pharaoh was unheard of in ancient Egypt, but Akhenaten permitted it. It was like photographers being invited to film the Queen of England brushing her teeth. Growing up at Thebes, Akhenaten had never been shown with his family, never mentioned on monuments. Now, here at Amarna, he could come out of the closet and say, "Accept me for what I am." For the first time in his life, Akhenaten could be himself. In its finished state, Amarna offered a theatrical setting for celebrating Akhenaten's kingship. The city sprawled over the plain. There were palaces with banners streaming and statues of the pharaoh. Suburbs housed the court officials who commuted to work on the royal road that ran through the center of town. Probably the widest street in the ancient world, it was designed for chariot processions, with Akhenaten leading the parade. The outcast boy had come a long way. Spanning the road, a bridge connected the palace with the temple area. Here, Akhenaten and Nefertiti appeared before the people, on the balcony known as the Window of Appearances, tossing down gold ornaments and other gifts to those he wanted to honor. At its height, the city grew to more than 10,000. There were boatmen, bureaucrats, traders, artisans, priests, and their families. They must have all been terribly excited with their new lives, new homes, new beginnings. It was like the age of Aquarius. Akhenaten was trying to create a utopia, but not everyone was happy. The pharaoh reveled in the warmth of the sun, but some foreign envoys to his court went home with sunburns. A king of Assyria wrote to Akhenaten, "Why are my messengers kept standing out in the open sun? They will die in the open sun. If it does the king good to stand in the open sun, let him stand there and die in the open sun." They were like California sun worshippers. I always think of Akhenaten's court with permanent suntans.
This is where it all happened. Akhenaten actually walked this street, and one of his followers lived in this house. Akhenaten probably rewarded him with gifts of gold. He wanted his followers happy. You see, Akhenaten was a flower child of the 60s. He wanted everyone happy, everything beautiful, everyone loving everyone else. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. Akhenaten had been isolated too long. He didn't understand people. He had created a beautiful, idealistic religion that was way ahead of its time. But the people just didn't get it.